It's been a very unproductive Friday so far. I've just got back from running my least enjoyable run of the week. I should have gone first thing in the morning, which is what I've done up until today. It tends to be quieter. It was also raining this morning in South London, not too heavily, but just enough to probably ensure the park would have been a bit quieter. I returned 4 library books to a couple of libraries. Went to the cafe, did some football-related small talk with the most affable of the waiters there, the one I exchange a handshake with. And this other guy, I've forgotten those guys from the Muppet Shows, their names. The large guy, he was there without his sidekick. He jumped in on the football small talk. Turns out he's a bigwig at probably the most high-profile non-league club in the country outside of Salford. Not big in stature, the club, but certainly big in terms of national coverage. I don't think any non-league club in recent years has had more national coverage than them. There's a clue for you. So I got to do no work. 10 minutes really after he left. I just thought I've got a lot to do, and I've still got to do the running today. So I was doing my laps in the park, and the first couple of laps weren't too bad. Grass is getting a bit long, feeling a bit leggy. I hope they cut it soon. It's just really heavy going, but I was kind of functioning. I didn't need to resort to visual aids to get me through those laps until towards the end of the second lap, a woman with 4 dogs. Yeah, it was 4 dogs. One of them went for me. I don't know if the dog's name was Beckford. It sounded like Beckford. If you're a dog owner, you may know if Beckford is a dog's name. It's like a brown corgi. I'm very vague with descriptions of dogs, Alsatians, Dobermans, Rottweilers, the scary dogs from the 70s and 80s. Got no problem describing them. English Bull Terriers, just because they're the only dog that really does worry me. But this was like a kind of brown corgi. And 3 times it failed to return to its owner. Every time I started running, it kept coming after me, getting up really close. And then it was joined by another 2 dogs, one of whom was called Archie. I definitely heard Archie. And that kind of ruined the run for me. I did half a lap. She still hadn't gone. She was on her phone. She'd let Beckford, if that was the dog's name, she'd let it off the leash again. So I just thought, I'm going to run back the other way to try and complete this 3rd lap. I did that. By then I was having to resort to visual exercises. And it started to cross my mind how I'm the kind of guy, maybe because I've got a very limited personality, I am prone to appropriating gestures that I've seen old friends do, or TV characters. When David Caruso was in NYPD Blue, he used to have some wonderful gestures, and the way he used to kind of bow his head like that and lean up. I used to do all that back in 94, 95. I think Jimmy Smits took over from him. Jimmy Smits used to do that when he used to be talking to people, kind of, bend the wrist if you want to try the Jimmy Smits. And I just assume these gestures as my own. Timothy Oliphant, who played the sheriff, he played Bullock in Deadwood, probably the best drama, I think I've said before, of the last 20 years. He had a great walk. He just walked with his arms at his side, didn't move the arms. The little waitress at the cafe, she's got a very similar walk. She's got a great walk, Phil Collins. So called just by me because she successfully made the transition from kitchen staff to waiting staff 4 or 5 years ago. A successful move, much in the same way that Phil Collins came off the drums to front Genesis when Peter Gabriel left. So, I do take on people's gestures. I had a classmate at secondary school in the 2nd year. I was sitting next to him. He was left-handed. And that's probably where the desire to be left-handed came from. I'm left-footed. But, there's something beautiful about left-handers. Think John McEnroe in his 1980s tennis heyday. I mean, he was just beautiful to watch. So the left-handed thing probably came from there. I used to get teased a lot about a skip I used to do before running when I used to play football. The skip I appropriated from Marco van Basten at Euro 92. He took a couple of penalties. The semi-final between the Dutch and the Danes went to penalties. And that was the last time I saw him do the skip, and that's still with me. The skip. If I'm running across the road to catch a bus, I do the skip first. Used to get teased about that by an old friend. Mo Salah, I think he's got a couple of lovely moves that he does when he misses a chance on goal. You'll see it. You might see it tonight. Liverpool Norwich. He does this skip. No, he jumps. He jumps up and down, frustrated, and then he tilts his head back. So that's the Mo Salah. So if I was still playing football, I certainly would have appropriated that. The problem I have with my gestures at the moment and my gesture-related audio is I'm largely mixing with the elderly, as I've said. And the problem is I haven't kind of staggered it. They're all over 75. I don't have any elderly people in my geriatric circle who are in their early 70s. They're all over 75, 77 in fact. I think the youngest one I've got is 77. So I'm kind of picking up a few of their moves. The audio when I'm leaning to do anything, I'm kind of and I think I'm too young to be making that kind of audio. I shouldn't be making those sounds for another 30 years. My aunt, every little move she does now, because she's quite frail, is just accompanied by a deep sigh. And I've told her and my uncle that it doesn't sound too good when I'm standing outside the door to their flat waiting to be let in, and I can hear her moving around making this kind of groaning like sound, and I'm thinking, they've been there a long time. They're well known in the block. They've been there about 25, 26 years now. People know they're in their 80s now. They must be thinking my uncle's on Viagra, because the sounds are not easy to distinguish between discomfort and pleasure. So I think my aunt, I have told her, you need to work on the audio. And also, of course, I'm picking up the audio for myself, so God knows what any neighbours here might be thinking. And also, I suppose one of the things that concerns me, it did concern me. I'm not sure it's a problem now. As you get older, when I was a kid, the elderly dressed in a very certain way. They dressed in sober clothes. They would make, the switch to Farrah's maybe, chinos, elasticated trousers. But now, my uncle's just turned 80. He's in jeans. And maybe that's why I've kind of slipped in terms of my social circle. I've just been seeing myself surrounded by denim and maybe not been paying attention to the actual age of the denim wearers. I kind of prepared for that in my 20s. I thought, 40, 50 years time, I'm going to have to leave the jeans behind. I may as well spend a few years wearing chinos, see how that goes. So, when I make the switch 50 years from now, it won't be a problem. But really, the elderly, you see them now, they're just wearing jeans. The elderly are dressing like the kids. The kids are dressing like the elderly. There's no real difference between the way we all dress now. So that's a concern. I do need to, I'm fine with gestures, appropriating gestures. I will need to do that. As I say, the personality is very limited, but I need to widen my social circle in order to beef up the gestures that I've got going on at the moment. The audio, it's just not acceptable. I'm going around now like a guy in his 60s. It's not good. Subscribe to the channel. Hope you're having a good Friday, and maybe I'll catch up with you later.